So, Kadosh, we're going to continue with the business halacha. Last time we did page 36. If you open up to page 36, you have the Ramban, Nachmanadis. And the yesod of the Ramban, we'll just do it very quickly before we continue, was, if you remember, there's a concept called Tovat Alekuchot. Tovat Alekuchot means that even though we spoke about that you're not allowed to do competition, right? Even though we spoke about you're not allowed to do competition, what happens if the non-residents, because we said that if you don't live in the city, you can't just come in and start selling certain products. So he says, what happens if the non-residents are selling merchandise cheaper than the local sellers? So according to the Shita of the Rimigash, remember the Rimigash was the rabbi, right, of the Rambam, meaning the Rambam calls him Mori Rabbi, even though it could be that he actually never learned under him, but he kissed his hand, and he was, and the Rimigash was a Talmid of the Rif. Right, so you've got the Rif, the Rimigash, and then the Rambam. The Rambam was underneath the Rimigash. But you have that the Rimigash comes and he says, right, this is Rabbi Yosef Halevi, okay, Rabbi Yosef Halevi Migash. So he comes and he says this. He says that they cannot be restricted from selling because we consider it a benefit to the local buyers. Meaning, even though we're going to come and always going to say that we want for the protection, right, of the people in this city, but we also want the protection, right, of the buyers. Meaning, we're not only looking for the consumer, for the one that's selling, because he's the one that's putting all the money in his pocket. You understand? He's putting all the money in his pocket. Obviously, we're not worried only about him. So the Rimigash comes and he says, but what about the buyers? Right? If the buyers are right now being ripped off because that's just the way that things are going in the city, so therefore, obviously, it should become mutar and nobody could actually stop them. The Rambando disagrees. And he says, if it's going to be a different type of merchandise altogether, then they all agree that it's going to be permitted. But if not, he wanted to say that we still have the prohibition of having somebody from the outside come and start selling. Now we're going to see the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch, page 37. Okay, we're going to see the Ramah, then we're going to see the Beretiv, and then we're going to see the Pitchet Tshuva. Okay, remember, wherever there's on the right side, there's like the line, so that's what we're learning. Right? The Ramah says, Yesh Omrim. Everyone has it on the top of page 37, Yesh Omrim. This is the Ramah, that's why it's in the Rashi script, right? And the Ramah says as follows. Yesh Omrim, some people say, that the people of the city could stop the non-locals, that's the people who are coming from other cities, they could stop the non-locals. Hainu Davka, that's going to be specifically Bedeleka Pseida. What does that mean now? Bedeleka Pseida Lekuchot, that there's not going to be a loss for the lekuchot. Who's the lekuchot? The ones that are buying, because obviously if they're the ones that are going to come and they're going to be buying, so therefore you have a problem. Shemochrin kishar b'nei, that they're selling at the same price and everything. And it's not a better, right? It's not a better quality. He says, "You tell me shel b'nei aval im notnin yoter bezol," but if they sell cheaper, right? Or shehi yoter tova, or it's a better quality. Meaning the ones of the city is inferior quality, and this is a better quality of a product. So then the lochin are going to come and they're going to benefit. And mochre sechorot yecholin limchot. So the mochre sechorot are not going to come and they're not going to benefit, right? They cannot. Since the locals are benefiting. Who are the locals? We're not talking about the sellers. Because remember, one more time, the sellers, they're just putting the money in their pockets. So it's not for them. We're talking about the purchasers, the ones which are living in the city, that they're the majority. Remember, at the end of the day, they're serving a clientele. And the clientele is the majority of the people. It's not the stores, right, or all the other things. And it's the people. So since they're the ones that are, so therefore he comes and he says, "En mochres chorot yecholim limchot." They can't rebuke them. Uvilvad, right? As long shayu alochim Yisraelim, the purchasers are Yisraelim. Aval bishvil goyim hanenim lo. But if it's for the goyim, it's not going to help. Meaning, when we come and we're going to say that it's going to benefit the locals, we're talking about that it's going to be benefiting the locals, the Jews, not right the other way around, right? So imagine right now you're going to come, you're going to sell. Now, who's the one that's buying from you, right? Kol hagoyim. That's not a heter. But if it's going to be that all the Jews are going to come, they're going to say, listen, instead of me coming and paying, I don't know what the price for this type of meat, and now you're coming in, it's the exact same type of meat, and you're cutting the price and by a third and more, right? So therefore, listen, nobody could stop him. Why? Tovat halekuchot. Tovat halekuchot. What is?
How can you quantify who's coming to buy from you or not? Whether it's the goyim or
no, the majority of the people. Majority of people are coming to you. You go to the S market. The majority of people are Jews or non-Jews?
Jew.
Oh, well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know. Even the Grove. Why in the world is a non-Jew going to go into the Grove to buy something that you could pay $3 less in Publix? And Publix is already considered
But if
expensive.
I'm coming from out of town, you're saying that it's a temporary sale, or I'm setting up shop and I'm opening a
Either
shop
or,
and
either or. As long as I'm going to be cheaper.
Remember, take into consideration that the guy that's coming from out of town and he's selling at the side of a street, he doesn't have rent.
You're right.
So he's obviously going to be cheaper, and he's going to.
One second.
Oh, but yes, this applies to food.
Anything. Yeah, but we didn't finish it. 1 second. Says the Beretev.
The restaurant. Pizza shop that's $20.
Right.
And like the market in here is at $35.
Open up.
Of opening a kosher, the same restaurant next door to each other.
So we spoke about this already. Basically, as long as you're not going to put the other person out of business, right? Even if you're going to minimize his profit margin, it's okay. That's what we wrote down. Right? Now, again, it has to be that you live in the place. It can't be that you're coming from the outside, unless you already have a place here. And then, then that's what we spoke about. Yeah, fine. So he says like this, Beretev. Everyone look at the Beretev. The Beretev is on the bottom left. It says, Shehi yoter tova. What happens if the product is better? Says, Abet Yosef katav de mistaber lomar, tehu adinum hu yoter ra'a, tevele kitre mine. What does that mean? The Sma says the same thing. Many times the Beretev is actually like a summary of the Sma and the right. Very good. So the Sma was the Prisha, right? So we said that the Beretev many times is a summary, right, of the Sma and the Shach and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So he's like the summary book. So this summary book comes and he brings down the Sma. The Sma is the Prisha. The Prisha brings down a Bet Yosef, right? Sefer Mirat Enaim, right? That's Sma, right? Oh, okay. No. But the Sma is not the summary. The Beretev is the summary. Okay. So now he says like this. He says, what would the Ramah only spoke about a case, and again, remember, the Ramah never says something from himself. He's quoting other people. So the Ramah is quoting other people, and the Ramah comes and he says, you can actually see who he's quoting. It says he's quoting Rabbeinu Yerucham. Okay. So the Rabbeinu Yerucham comes and he says, listen, if right now I'm going to come and I'm going to sell, and there's going to be a gain for the locals, so therefore it's going to be good. Why is it going to be okay? Whether it's they're selling cheaper or because they're selling a better quality. The Bet Yosef says, 1 second, what about inferior quality? Is that considered that since it's going to be inferior quality, meaning worse quality, is that considered that it's like two different species? We learned halacha, and this is when we spoke about, remember about the pizza, right? Whether it's a regular size pizza or the new things that came in here, which is not the very, very small personal pizzas, which is like Italian. So it's not even a regular, it's a much thinner crust and this, and it's very small, and it's like more personal and many different types. Usually pizza, how many types of pizzas? Nowadays, they're starting to get much more. They used to be regular and vegetable. Now they have white and they have this and that. But that all comes because of the Italian pizzas, that each one was a completely, like a completely, different type. So the question is, if you're coming,
example for this is like minced meat, lean, medium, or this. It's just extra fat versus clean.
Yeah, you're right. So the question now is that if you're going to tell me, basically not is it a benefit? Is it considered a different species? Now, if it's considered a different species, so we said you're allowed to do the competition because I'm not selling the same product.
But
you remember we spoke about? We said like this. We said if I'm going to come and I'm going to sell the same product to you, we can't do that. But what happens right now if it's going to be a completely different product? So here, this is a completely different product. Why? It's inferior. It's not the same thing. So, for example, you're gonna buy like what you said. You're gonna buy. There's I don't know what type of good, the Bosch and the Wolf and the I don't know, Vikings and all these thing. And then I'm gonna come and I'm going to bring you an appliance which is a no-name brand or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna say to myself, what do I care? They're all made in China. So like, what's that? What's the difference?
Would that be a benefit for the local?
Well, that's yes, 100%. So he finishes off by saying,
I don't want to buy. And all there is in the city is the highest quality of.
Yeah, you're right. So that's the benefit. So the question is, so the Shulchan Aruch in the Bet Yosef brings it down. He brings down the question, and then he says Sarich Iyun. I'm not sure. Meaning, I'm not sure if that's enough already to be considered two different species, and if it's considered two different species, so therefore it should be permitted. So let's see the Pitchei Tshuva. So the Pitchei Tshuva comes and he says this: Aval im notrim yoter bezol. Ayem bebet Yosef mevuad shedat Ria Levi, right? Which is again, this is a Rimigash. Right, everyone has it on the bottom right of the Shulchan Aruch, page 37, the Pitchei Tshuva, the Patash. That's the way that we call him. Okay, so he says, I am a Bet Yosef, look at the Bet Yosef, Mevuad, it's explained, Shadat Ariya Levi, that the dat of Rabbi Yosef Levi, this is a Rimigash that we learned on page 36. He says, Da filu mozli purta lo matsumaki, even if he's going to be a little bit cheaper, nobody could stop him. Meaning, it makes sense, because listen, if you're going to come and you're going to do a competition, you're from out of town, and you're the same price, what are you doing? But if you're already going to benefit the locals, so now there's a justice there. Listen, the locals are benefiting. So he says, "Udelo ken Nemuke Yosef, and not like the Nemuke Yosef, shekatav shedat rav davka bezol gadol." That means, according to Shulchan Aruch, the way that he learned the Migash was, even if he undercuts him a little bit, that's already enough. That's already enough, according to this shita of the Migash, that you can't stop him. According to Nemuke Yosef, he learned in the Migash, no. It has to be a big difference. Meaning, it has to be that, like what you said, there's a third off. Like, listen, he's doing a real service to the community. You understand? So, it's good what he's doing. So he says, right? V'chen katav b'tshuvat nachalat shiva. That's also brought down in the tshuvat nachalat shiva. So first of all, you see here that the Bet Yosef is not going like the shita of the Nemuke Yosef. Even the fact that they're going to come and they're going to sell it a little bit cheaper, that's already enough. That's already enough that I can't stop him. Now again, you have the Ramban that argues, you have this, but you're already seeing that there might be a heter if he's always going to be cheaper. So now the next one, Yud Bet, Yoter Tova, Ayim Beretev, V'aleu B'tzarich Yun, V'ayim Tshuva Nachalat Shiva, look at the Tshuva Nachalat Shiva, Shekatav Ledina, right? Pashut De'en Yicholim Limchot, they cannot stop him if it's going to be inferior quality. Telo Adif Me'ilu Aya Ibai LeGemara, V'alta B'teiku, De'kam Lan Dechol Teiku, De'memona Chumra, right? Letovea V'kula Lintba, V'lo Matzi Me'akev. He says like this. In the Gemara, if you remember, there were a few times that there was a teiku. What does it mean a teiku? Teiku means we had a question and we weren't certain what's the answer. In all those cases, we basically went lekula. Why did we go lekula? Because who are you going to go like? When you're going lechumra for one, it's a chumra for one and a kula for other one. If you're going to go to chumra here, it's a chumra for him and a kula for him. So because it's always going to be like that, says the Pitchet Shuvah, he brings down, by mamona lechumra letovea vekula lenitba. You are demanding from the outsider to get lost, correct? You're coming and you're telling him, what are you coming into my city? Right? Get out of here. Right? That's what you're telling him. So when you're doing that, it's a kula for the nitba. So therefore we're paskening lekula that he can't tell you anything. So according to this, says the Pitchet Shuvah, even though the Bet Yosef finished with a tzarich yun, and I'm not sure whether Bemet you could stop him or not if he's selling inferior quality, right? Why? Because maybe it's a different product. Says the Pitchet Shuvah, nowadays we're lenient. Why? Because if you have a question, any type of question, we go lekula. Lekula for who? For the nitba, the one that's being demanded from. So they're coming, they want to take him to get rid of him. He could just say, listen, the halacha's on my side. Why? Yeah, there's a safek. Once there's a safek, the halacha's on my side. So look in the footnote, look on the bottom of the page. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and then in English. The Ramah, 100%. Has to be cheaper or a different quality. Then no, for sure not. That was the entire halacha. That was the entire halacha. Yeah? Look what he says. אם מוכרי העיר האחר הם מוכרים בזול יותר מבני העיר, או שסחורתם טובה יותר, אין מוכרי העיר יכולים לעכבם ולמכור מפני טובת הלקוחות, ואם היא סחורה אחרת, שלא נמצא באותו העיר, מותר למכור בכל עניין. ואיים בפתחי תשובה שאם רק מוזלי פורטה, that means they're only making it cheaper a little bit, נחלקו הראשונים יכולים לעכב עליהם, right? עוד כתב הבן היטב שאם סחורתם גרועה יותר, meaning more inferior, מהסחורה המצויה, right, בעיר, נסתפק הבית יוסף יכולים לעכב, ויכריע פתחי תשובה שלכולה לנתבע, ואין יכולים לעכב, they cannot stop it. So let's just read the English for those that didn't understand the Hebrew. He says non-residents who are selling merchandise that is going to be cheaper or better quality than the local sellers are allowed to sell directly to the locals because of the benefit to the buyers. So this, by the way, would actually be an answer for you that if they wanted to open up a type of a yes market, but the guy doesn't live here. If the guy lives here, so then yes, the guy doesn't live here. Because again, if the guy lives here, for sure you can make a competition, right? Why? Because why are you better than him? Right? You're paying the tax of the city, there's a whole thing, but you're part of the same thing. But here is talking about the non-residents. So he says, at the end of the day, if it's going to be cheaper, there's no problem. If it's different type of merchandise, they may sell it even if it's not necessarily benefit anyone. If it's only minimally cheaper or it's worse than the locals, Pitchet Shuvah cites a dispute whether it's this exception would apply. Okay? It's very interesting. In the English, he doesn't say the maskana of the Pitchet Shuvah. Very interesting. In the English, he doesn't tell you the maskana, the end result of the Pitchet Shuvah. The Pitchet Shuvah went lenient. Here he doesn't say. He just says he cites a dispute. I don't know why in the English he doesn't actually say the maskana. I'm not sure exactly, but that's the way it goes.